Welcome to Test Prep Central. We're working in Calculator Workshop 14, Storing Features. Today you're going to learn how to take numbers and store them in your calculator so that you can use those numbers to do other things. But first I'm going to clear my memory. Second plus 7, 1, 2. And the first example says to evaluate the expression using different values for x and y. So the first value we're going to store in our calculator is 2 square roots of 2, and we're going to store that as x. So first you type 2 square roots of 2. And then I'm going to go right to get out from under the square root symbol. And the button STO with an arrow means store. So press that button and then tell it where to store it. You can put it anywhere. So any variable, any button on your calculator. But I put the X value for mine and then type enter. Okay, so now we're going to take the negative 1/3 and store that for y. Now, if you're on an older model calculator, you don't have alpha y equals enter as a fraction, which is what we're going to use, alpha y equals enter. Then type negative 1 divided by 3, and it works just the same. So I'm going to start with a negative, and then I'll do the alpha y equals enter to make my fraction placeholder. And I'll type 1 on the top and 3 on the bottom, and then I'll go to the right to get out of the fraction, and then press the store key. And to get y, we type alpha 1, enter. And now what's happened is it's stored these values in the calculator. Now, it will display this decimal approximation for this square root, but it does store all the digits, and you know there's an infinite number. So all of that is in there. So when it does the calculation, often you can get actually a whole number answer out. So we're going to go ahead and type in the expression that's in your handout, and we just type it right here on the home screen. So be sure to use the negative under your 3 for your negative in the front, then 3, x to the 4th power, so we raise it to the 4th. Use your right arrow to get out of your exponent before typing your minus. Be sure to do the subtraction symbol there. Then your 9. Then open your parentheses. We're going to square y, so do alpha 1 to get a y, and then square it by pressing the x squared button. And then plus 1, and then close your parentheses. So this is the expression we're to evaluate. When you type enter, it gives you the value. It basically is changing your x and your y to the values above and simplifying it down. So a real simple way to evaluate an expression. This is particularly useful when you have a complicated expression or you have a lot of complicated numbers you're putting into that expression, and it's real easy to make calculation errors. This is one way to avoid that. So in example 2, we have an application problem here. It says the area of a rectangle is a function of its width. So the function f of x has an x in it, and that x stands for the width, and the output for this function is the area of the rectangle. So step 1 is I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to put in my function. So let's type in 8 minus x, and then open parentheses 2x minus 3. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to need to graph this. But first, let's adjust this window. And to adjust a window, if you're not real sure what to do, go ahead and look at your table values. So second graph will show you the table, and you can kind of see these y values are going up. 21 is the highest number I'm seeing here. So I want to go past the 21 for sure, maybe 25. And so you'll notice in your handout for the window, I chose a y max of 25. I want to choose an y min lower than 0. So usually I go a little below the axis there. So in your handout, I started at 0. and I stopped at 10 for my x values. You could actually stop at 8, but that's going to put it right on that second point, that second x-intercept. But 0 to 10 works. The y minimum, I chose -5. And for the y maximum, we need to go above that highest y. So we chose 25. And a good scale would be 5, because you're counting from -5 to 25. Now, when you type graph, it's not going to show the grid lines if you don't turn them on. So I'm going to turn them on before I do that. Second zoom. Go down to this third row and highlight grid line and press enter. And that will put grid lines on your graph. So now I've typed graph, and you see the graph looks just like the one in your handout. Now we're to determine the maximum value in this graph. So if you've not done the Analyze Functions workshop, this is where we learned this. We're going to type second trace, and then maximum is a 4. Place your cursor to the left of the maximum. So this is a 5, so I'm going to put 4. And then place it to the right. I'm going to put 6. And then see how those arrows point at the maximum? And then type enter, and it'll show me the maximum. Now, for some reason, and we talked about this in the Analyze Functions workshop, this value is sometimes off just barely. This 1 really should not be there. So if you want to get exactly 4.75, you can just type 4.75, enter, and you'll see it's exactly 4.75. This value did not change, so you know you're in the right spot. Okay, now we're going to go to the home screen. What you don't know is when you did this, when you found this maximum, these values that are here on your screen are stored in your calculator. So when you go to second mode, which is your home screen, I'm going to clear what's here, and you type X, enter, it will give you the X value that appeared on your screen. And then when you type Y, which is alpha 1, enter, it's giving you the Y value that was on your screen. Well, remember, the X value was the width of the rectangle, and the Y value was the area of the rectangle. Well, if we want to find the length of the rectangle, we just take its area, which is the Y. So I'm going to take alpha 1, and we divide that area by the width, which was the X. When I do Y divided by X, it's going to give me the length of the rectangle. So these are your 3 values that produce the largest possible area. X would be the width. The largest possible area is 21.125. I'm not sure the units, some kind of square unit. And then the length is 4.447 approximately. Oh, these are inches, sorry. So the area would be square inches, and then the length and the width are both inches. All right, let's move on to example 3. We're to solve a system using the functions f of x and g of x, and then use that solution to evaluate the function h of x. Now, we are not going to type in all 3 of these functions. We're only going to type in the first 2 here. So let's go ahead and type in negative square root, which is second square, of x. Use your right arrow to get out from underneath that square root before you type your plus 2x. Go to your y2 and type in g of x. So this one is x. Whoops, I went way too far down, didn't I? Let's clear that. Let's go back up. Although it doesn't technically matter where you put it. So if you want to put it way down there, it'll still come out. It'll just be a different color in this calculator. All right, so x plus 2, and then x minus 2 for the other binomial. Okay. All right, so we're going to solve the system, and I believe a standard viewing window will be fine here. So Zoom 6 produces your standard viewing window. And so here you can see a parabola, and then the square root is that blue one. So we're going to find this point of intersection here, which is our solution. So second trace intersect is 5. And now type enter 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And it will go to that point of intersection. Now what's happened is your calculator has stored that value for x and that value for y in the calculator. So we're going to use that x coordinate to evaluate the function h of x. So on the home screen, if you'll go back to second mode, I'm going to clear what's here. I'm going to now type in the expression for h of x. And I'm going to use the alpha y equals enter. Again, if you don't have that, just type -1 divided by 2. So alpha y equals enter. We'll put a 1 over a 2 for our fraction. Go to the right before typing x to the 4th. So x raised to the 4th power. Go to the right, type 2x squared. Whoops, I forgot my plus sign. Let's put a plus first, and then 2x squared. And then finally, we need a -2. Okay, so once you've typed your function, that value of x will replace these variables x in this expression, and it will automatically return the value of the function at that x value. So here's the y value for h. All right, so h evaluated at the solution to f of x equals g of x is approximately -17.786. All right, so that's how you use the store features. Basically anything on the calculation menu. So when you go to second trace, any of these things on this list, if you find a value like a trace and a number, if you find an x-intercept, a minimum, a maximum, a point of intersection, you will always get values stored in your calculator that you can then use. So just remember that. You don't have to write them down and type them back in. You can just use that variable instead, and it will do all that for you. Okay, remember, the best way to learn your calculator is to practice. So until we meet again, practice, practice, practice.